Right now at 4, we're heading into the last few hours of Election Day. Right now, primary voters are deciding which candidates will face off in November. We've got you covered from a U.S. Senate race to newly drawn congressional districts. Thank you for joining us. I'm Chris Lawrence.
And I'm Cynthia Isaguirre. The polls will close at 7 p.m. and as long as you're in line at that time, you'll be allowed to cast a ballot.
Yeah, more than 2.5 million Texans have already done so, a new early voting record.
And we are just under 3 hours from polls closing. We have seen a steady turnout. This was earlier today in Garland. There you see the lines. Now, the biggest problem we've heard about today has been the confusion in Dallas County. A lot of voters turned away because they're at the wrong precinct. Voters must cast ballots at their assigned precinct, and that might not be the same place where you usually vote. So make sure you check before you leave.
To get a look at more voter turnout, let's go live to Richard Solomon. He's in Denton County. How's the turnout been there so far?
Well, yeah, Cynthia, Chris, we're in Carrollton at a public library, and this is traditionally a high volume area, and that is exactly what Denton County election officials expect will happen later on here tonight. But you mentioned that problem, and I want to address it real fast because Denton County is precinct based. That means you can only vote at polling locations assigned to your home address. So you want to make sure you're aware of that before you step out the house to head to a polling location later on this evening. But I asked folks here in Carrollton what's driving them to the polls this primary. Here's what we learned.
Very personal decision, but not very many countries have the right to vote. We do.
We need change, and we need voices and leaders that are going to make a difference. So it's just important to get out and vote and, express that.
And that enthusiasm is translating into numbers. Frank Phillips, the Denton County Elections Administrator, says turnout has already surpassed total ballots cast in the 2024 presidential primary. By the end of early voting last week, more than 115,000 ballots had already been cast. For comparison, during the entire 2024 primary election, just over 122,000 ballots were cast. Officials expect that number to climb significantly by the end of Election Day here.
Based on prior experience, I think you're going to have a certain number of polling sites that at 7 o'clock there'll be people waiting in line, and they may be there for a little bit.
So Phillips, best advice for you, if you're headed out tonight, get here as early as you can and give yourself a little bit of time. Now, speaking of long lines and lots of early voting numbers, Sean Giggy was in Collin County where voting was strong.
More than 132,000 people voted early here in Collin County, a record. And that's also why county officials expected another large turnout this morning for Election Day. Collin County was prepared for a wave, but got a trickle. A record-breaking early voting turnout signaled that Election Day could be just as busy. But when polls opened Tuesday, voters didn't have to wait long.
No, it's about 10-15 minutes. Pretty smooth, yeah.
However, shorter lines didn't mean less voters. More than 14,000 people voted before noon today.
We've seen turnout increase by 75%.
Collin County Elections Administrator Kayla Bro said more polling centers and proper preparation has prevented problems.
We knew people were going to turn out. We were not shocked by the number of people that voted this morning.
Bro said he anticipates longer lines as the day goes on, and although it makes for stressful days, it also makes him proud.
It makes me feel better that all the work that I know that myself and my staff have gone through, that people are actually showing up. So it makes you proud, really does.
And whether it's 10 minutes or 10 hours, voters say it's well worth the wait.
You have to show your voice, otherwise you can't be heard.
Voting is the way for your voice to be heard, no matter whether your candidate wins or loses.
In Collin County, I'm Sean Giggy.
Well, the most contentious race is the one for U.S. Senate.
And this afternoon, we're closely watching candidates on both the Republican and Democratic sides. U.S. Senior Senator John Cornyn running for a 5th term and fighting for his political survival, facing GOP challenger Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and U.S. Representative Wesley Hunt of Houston. On the Democratic side, 2 Democratic stars are battling for the nomination. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett of Dallas and State Representative James Tallarico Francisco of Austin are competing in one of the closest races statewide.
You know, now some of these races look radically different from just a few years ago. Voters are choosing a new representative from the newly drawn 33rd Congressional District. Former Representative Collin is challenging incumbent Democrat Julie Johnson, and the solidly blue district encompasses parts of Dallas, Irving, and Grand Prairie. We're going to take a deep dive into that race at 4:30.
Right when polls close tonight, you'll want to turn on WFAA Plus for our election results special. Our political team will be live at campaigns across Texas as the results come in, and a panel of experts will break down the numbers all night long. We do it best here. Our streaming app is free to download to your TV.
Well, one good thing if you are out going out to vote today, Cassie, no problems at all in terms of the weather.
No, the weather's been great. I mean, it has been a little windy.
And a little warmer than
yeah, it's warmer than normal for sure, but I don't know too many people that have complained about it.
Yeah.
No, it's been pretty nice. We've been very lucky so far. You know, today we did make it back into the low 80s. This is our Fort Worth camera. You can see plenty of sunshine, certainly a mix of sun and clouds from time to time, but there's that wind. It's still coming out of the south-southeast, sustained right now at around 20 miles an hour, but we do have wind gusts to near 35 miles an hour. So there's the south wind anywhere between about 18 miles an hour in Decatur. There's a 35 in Terrell, 35 in Canton, and a 28-mile-an-hour gust in Corsicana. But temperature-wise, we're doing pretty good for March. We're at 84 in downtown Dallas, 83 in Fort Worth. There's an 87 over in Breckenridge. Satellite and radar showing the mix of sun and clouds that we've had so far today. You can see some showers moving into Oklahoma. That's going to stay away from us tonight. I think we stay dry. Clouds increase and temperatures only drop down into the mid-60s tomorrow morning. We do have some WFA weather alert days to talk about. We'll talk about that in a moment. Stacia, what's traffic look like?
So we're just watching a few different issues out there. We're going to go ahead and start in Tarrant County. This is right along 360 southbound at Brown. So this is just north of where 360 and I-30 meet, right around the Grand Prairie, Arlington area. Let's go ahead and check out that location on your map. You can see quite a bit of red on your map. It's been a busy afternoon out there, but like Cassie mentioned, at least it's been pretty nice as far as the weather goes. But this backup extends almost all the way to Texas 183 along 360 southbound, again, right there before the I-30 interchange. Another issue we're seeing, so this is in Red Oak. So in Ellis County, just south of the Dallas-Ellis County line, you have a major accident along I-35E in the southbound lanes right there at Ovilla. So that is causing a backup. Traffic is down to one lane there. Also, we're heading on over to the Mesquite area where an accident has one lane blocked. You know what? It just cleared. So that's some good news there. You don't have to worry about the slowdown along US 80 eastbound at 635. One more area to point out, because it's going to be happening again tomorrow. You had road work that really slowed things down along this Loop 12 southbound right around the 183 area. Those lanes are back open, but it's going to be in place tomorrow, too. So just keep that in mind if you're heading in that direction. All right, back to you.
And this afternoon, President Trump claims Iran is running out of missile launchers, and Israel just launched a new round of strikes on Tehran and Beirut. ABC's Christian Cordero has an update from Washington.
Today, for the first time since giving the U.S. military the okay to strike Iran, President Trump publicly took questions from reporters. ABC's Rachel Scott asked the president if Israel forced his hand, to which he said no, insisting Iran was a threat.
I think they were going to attack first, and I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. But Israel was ready and we were ready.
That contradicts what Secretary of State Marco Rubio said just yesterday, that Israel was planning on attacking Iran's regime with or without the U.S.
If we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties.
The administration's mixed messaging is brewing frustration among Democratic and some Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill.
Which one is it, Donald Trump? Regime change, nuclear weapons, missiles, an imminent threat to the homeland, or a preemptive strike to stop future attacks on the region?
Regarding the thousands of American tourists now stranded across the Middle East, the State Department tells ABC News it's working on securing military aircraft and charter flights for U.S. citizens, for now urging people like Oliver Sims in Doha to get out as soon as possible.
I know that officials have said, use commercial means, but there are really no commercial means here for us to use.
Trump was asked why there wasn't an evacuation plan for Americans in the Middle East ahead of the strikes. He responded, "It all happened very quickly." Christiane Cordero, ABC News, Washington.
Now to the mass shooting on 6th Street in Austin early Sunday morning. A third victim has died. This is a picture of George Peterson. The 30-year-old was taken off life support last night. 2 other people were killed. 19-year-old Ryder Harrington, a student at Texas Tech, and 21-year-old Savitha Shawn. Shawn was a student at UT. A total of 14 people were taken to the hospital from the scene over the weekend. At least 4 have been released. 2 remain in critical condition. A memorial has formed outside of the West 6th Street bars where that shooting happened.
When you're in this building, when you're in any of these bars, you get a couple hours with your friends to just be yourself, to get away from all this, and it's just devastating.
The FBI is calling the attack possible terrorism. Agents are combing through more than 1,000 hours of video evidence and talking to dozens of witnesses to better understand the suspect's motive seen in this video. Police fatally shot him. They're expected to release body cam video on Thursday.